Welcome back, everybody. It is September 1st of 2024, and this is episode 69 of What is on My Desk. So here we are, everybody, back for another one of my What is on My Desk monthly updates, and I have progress to show you. I got quite a bit down on the models. I had the shift work kind of helps out sometimes, especially on the day shift. My days off give me quite a bit of free time to poke away and work on some of these kits. And as you'll quickly see, I actually got one of them finished and the other three have moved along significantly. Now as well, I also have a new product to show you, something I've been waiting on for a while. I think I might have mentioned it in a previous video that I was waiting on it. So I'll take a quick look at that. Actually, it's a bit of a longer look, to be perfectly honest. But we'll get you introduced to that kit and you can see what's in the box and make a healthy decision about whether it's something you guys want to buy. And I do plan to come out with a bit of a more in-depth and longer review on that at some point in the future. But yeah, let's get swung over to the desk. You guys can take a look at the progress I have made in the past little while. And as always, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. Well, here we are, folks. We're back for another quick look at some new model kits before we jump over and check out the progress. And this is a bit of a special one, and I will eventually do a full-blown review of this down the road. But for now, now you know what? I might do a full-blown review sooner rather than later, just because of the rarity of this kit. But either way, this will just be a quick look at this kit, and it is probably the most popular kit on the market right now. It is the Eduard limited edition, the bloody 100th boxing of HK's B-17F. The backstory on this particular one, it was, I don't know the exact history, to be perfectly honest. It had something to do with Eduard along with the 100th Bomb Group Association, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with the success of Masters of the Air. But what they did is they did a bunch of research and they fixed a lot of, I shouldn't say fixed, they added to the number of options you could do on the nose. The standard HKF kit, you got the staggered nose guns, the larger windows of the F model, and you got the two different nose styles of the single 50 cal or the twin 30 cals. But there was quite a bit of variation in F noses, and I do plan to work on a video at some point where I do go into some of the details on the variations in the nose of the B-17, because the F model particularly is all over the place. You could throw a whole bunch of B-17F nose parts on a wall and you'll make something that was flow on an F. It's a mess, and it takes a little figuring out. And I did a bunch of research. It was related to another kit I'm building, and I started going down that rabbit hole of research. And then this kit came out and realized this solved some of my problems, which is the main reason why I bought this. And we'll go into that in a little bit as I dig through this. But this boxing just adds a bunch of extra nose parts, which we will look at later. Some different sections of nose to create different variations in the F, and you can mix and match, and you get some different nose perspex gun options, cheek gun options, the perspex on the nose, as well as it's an Eduard kit, so they threw a whole bunch of extra stuff into here, and we'll look at some of that. Now, just for those of you who are out there who have ordered this directly from Eduard, you would have received a poster. It was a super secret, don't show anybody envelope at the bottom of the box, which apparently had a poster in it. I pre-ordered through Squadron, and they had basically promised, or they had advertised it as getting the same as what you got from Eduard. Stand by. Apologies about that. I had to take a phone call. But where was I? So yeah, so I bought this from Squadron, and they had advertised that it was going to be basically the same deal as buying it directly from Eduard. You'd get all the same things, everything would be the same. And then we started hearing things like people who ordered from Eduard were getting their kits, and Eduard was actually selling a number of these at the IPMS Nationals convention in the US, and Squadron still hadn't received their order. So finally, they started being shipped out. I got mine, I think, just a couple, like yesterday. Yeah, yesterday is when I picked this up. So I've had this like effectively only for 24 hours. Anyways, and then before I even received it, Squadron had sent out an email stating that it turns out that we were not getting the super secret special poster, that was only something that you got if you ordered directly from Eduard, and I guess there was just a bit of miscommunication on how all of that worked. But Squadron has promised to have the same artist who did both the box art as well as a limited edition poster, which I believe the box art is based off the poster. But that they would basically hire that artist to do another poster only for Squadron, and would then, you know, provide that to anybody who pre-ordered through Squadron. So at the end of the day, it's not much of a loss, but a little bit of confusion and some little bit of online anger while some of the details got sorted out. This kit is a monster. I mean, it's also the pre-order, and the one thing I did get through the pre-order was some extra decals that you didn't get if you ordered it after. But to be perfectly honest, Squadron is sold out. If you go to the Eduard website, it says it's discontinued. I know Sprue Brothers has a few in stock, but I don't believe it's the pre-order version. And the pre-order, so if you actually look, you get 2 sets of instructions, and I'll go through why in a little bit. But I mean, these instructions are not small. Like, this is a book. This is there's books out there that are deeper and bigger than this. So you get a lot. We'll start going through it. I'll show you some of the box contents to begin with, and then we can take a look at the decals. We'll do the decals last. We'll take a look at box contents, and then we can take a look at the instructions, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up with the decals. So as I've stated, and I can put a link up to the top here to the standard HK kit. This is, for the most part, I'm just taking everything out. Just taking everything out that is extra. Yeah. So, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay. So what's in this box is basically a bone stock HK B-17. As I said, I'll put a link to the top to the review I did of the HK B-17. I think it's actually a mashup of all of my B-17 kits. But in that is the HK kit. So I'm not going to go too far into this kit as it stands, because I already have. But I mean, you get a lot of parts in the base kit. You've got lots of options on the clear sprue, 3 different version top turrets. Your ball turret is assembled of multiple parts. You get side windows for both opened and closed. You also have the option of putting the Astrodome on or off. The fuselage itself are beautifully molded. They come in these 2 halves, and you'll notice it's kind of chopped up. You don't have a tail gun section because it is a separate part. In this case, you get the earlier Stinger style. In the G boxing, you get the Cheyenne or the pumpkin turret option. The top deck is a separate piece, as well as the nose. And this is the stock nose. That's not the right half. This is the stock nose that you get from HK out of the kit. It just glues on, and again, you get the difference. And that's one of the reasons, which I'll get to in a second. So in the G model, for example, you'd have a different nose section that you would mount, and that's how you change it. For the E, this is scaled down. I'm kind of all over the place here. Like I said, I go into more detail in the other video, but this is scaled down from their 132nd kit, and in 132nd you have an E, an F, and a G. So you just keep replacing your nose sections based off what version you are making, and that leaves your core fuselage is the same across the E, F, and G, and you just add the different parts that make up the different versions. But yeah, your wings are, again, beautifully molded, full wheel wells, separate exhaust, flap details are there. Everything comes beautifully packaged and ensures you don't get a lot of like plastic scratching. You've got tons of detail in here, landing gear, your wheel well bits, your wheels, engines, doors can be open or closed, all your machine guns. Over here you've got some of your interior pits, your bulkheads, cockpit floor, cockpit sidewalls, bomb bay details, tail gun. There's your top kind of turtle deck section. So there's tons and tons and tons of detail in this kit. Over here we've got sections. You got propellers, engine cowlings, parts for the nose, walkways for the waist gunners, the Norden bomb sight, a lot of little antennas, all the fun little bits and pieces you need to create an unbelievably detailed model. Here you've got parts for your tail gun, as well as the frameworks for inside the... Ooh, that's broken. Interesting. The frame for the nose gun has been crushed for the single nose gun. Luckily, you can glue it back together while it's on the sprue, but I'm surprised HK didn't include some sort of a frame. I have to check my other boxing on that. I feel like the other one had a little bit of a frame around that to protect that from that exact potential issue of being crushed. The one thing I did want to bring up, which was brought out as the kits have been built over the... I mean, a new kit comes out, everybody oogles the plastic and falls in love with it. It takes a bit of time for the kits to get built and then compared and really looked at with a critical eye. And one thing that was brought up, and a lot of people online have compared a completed HK kit to a completed monogram kit, and the stance is very different. When they're sitting on the ground, get my hands lined up here. When they're sitting on the ground, tail wheel down, nose high, the HK model sits quite a bit nose higher than the monogram kit. And a lot of people said like the shape is off and there's a problem. And a lot of people assumed it had to do with the structure of the kit. And then somebody, and I wish I could credit whoever came up with this, but I saw the post on, I believe it was even on Facebook, on one of the modeling pages on Facebook. Somebody noticed, I'll zoom in here just quickly, and I'll get a piece of... So somebody noticed on the main landing gear, the oleos are completely extended. The scissors are completely extended, and that shouldn't be like that. On a standard B-17, I mean, perfect example, actually, I have my Revell F that I'm working on right here. Oh no, my engines. If I pull out the Revell F gear, which is actually pretty much a carbon copy of the monogram, oh my God, G gear. If you look at the difference, you'll see, let's see if I get this in the right orientation. First of all, you see the difference in detail, but you can see the difference between the oleo compression on the Revell piece, and I'll zoom in just a little bit more so you can actually see. So that is the extended oleo on the HK kit, and that is the compressed on the Revell, and you can see how much of a difference that makes. I mean, that's what, half inch? No, 1/8 of an inch, but still an 1/8 of an inch when you lever it out to the nose sits quite a bit high. Now it makes sense on this part where the landing gear is folded, because the oleo would extend as the gear lifts off the ground and you get the weight off wheels. That oleo will extend, and that is correct for gear that is retracted, but it is incorrect for gear that is on the ground. I don't know off the top of my head if there are any replacement landing gears out there that are correct. I know there are a number out there that are just copies of the kit part molded in metal. I haven't gone down that road yet of researching, but just be aware that that is a known issue with the HK kit, and how that gets fixed other than aftermarket landing. You'd either have to drill out the gear, you know, cut that and remount it, which would be an absolute pain, or find aftermarket gear, which if you're going to go out and spend $200 on a kit, $200 US on a kit, to then have to go buy aftermarket gear to make it correct, it's a little bit of a slap on the face for those people, and I kind of feel their pain because I spent a ton of money on this kit. And knowing now I have two HK kits and they both have wrong landing gear, you know, that's an expensive fix even on two of them, let alone people who might have multiples. So anyways, that is your standard out of the box HK kit that you get. From there, Eduard has added stuff. Now, the main reason I bought this kit, and the main reason most people bought the kit, and the reason why the kit exists in the first place, is this sprue right here. Now, this was done by Eduard using HK's kind of expertise, and they molded it. And this is the sprue that makes this kit important. So this gives you the ability to mix and match your nose sections and create the model that you want to create. And it's really cool because they're molded in clear, so you don't have to glue the windows in. The windows are already there, you just have to mask them, and you don't have any weird seams around the windows. It also makes sense because you have a lot of clear windows you had to mold anyways, and by just molding them all in clear plastic, you only ever have to mold once. You're not making multiple molds. You make one mold, you mold it in clear, and you're done. And you get your nose sections, your perspex, your astrodomes, and you've got all your clear pieces here, and you just paint them. You just paint it interior green and all that other fun stuff. It's all, I mean, the only downside is you can't just paint the inside and then glue your windows in after. You kind of do have to mask off the inside in order to get the interior green color in there. But that is masks that are provided by Eduard, which we will see soon. Now, there are, as I mentioned, quite a bit of variations in the nose of B-17s, and this gives you the ability to make some, I would say most, nose variations of B-17s, but not quite all of them. No, this actually, no, it doesn't give you all of them. It does not give you all of them. This gives you almost all of the abilities to make variations in the F nose. I can't really put this together because the sprue joints are sticking proud and are causing some issues, but I can kind of hold it together. So this is your standard, let's call it Boeing built F model nose. It has 4 windows across the top. One of them back here is masked in, but I believe you have the ability to cut it out. You can actually see, building my YB40 here with the Revell F, there's 4 windows across the top, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a cruciform layout, same as the E model. That was how the early Fs came off the production line, and you can see inside is a mark for you to cut out if you choose to glue that rear window in place and have your 4 windows in that cruciform shape. You also have the ability from the HK kit out of the box to cut out the astrodome section, and you have the drop-in frame and an astrodome, and that gives you sort of a mid-range F model that had 3 windows and an astrodome. And that is a version that did exist. Now, as well, with the Boeing built version, you have On the left side, small, large, small, and on the right side, large, small, small. And again, that lines up with the Revell F that came out in the 1970s. Small in the front, large in the middle, small at the back. And that's kind of like, as I said, your standard Boeing built F model. But B-17s were not just built by Boeing. They were also built by Lockheed, Vega, as well as Douglas at multiple factories around the US. And as production continued, those changed slightly. And these give you some of the other options. Now, this nose here is kind of the next stage of the variation in the B-17. And if you'll notice here, comparing the right side of the nose with the right side of the nose, now we have small window at the front, big window in the middle, small window at the back, and on the left side, the big window is forward and two small windows at the back. So it's almost the mirror of what Boeing did. Douglas also had this bulged window. I don't know how much of this is showing up on camera. I'll zoom in just a little bit. It's clear plastic, which gets a little annoying when you're trying to see things. So this window here, as I said, right side, small, large, small. Left side is large, small, small. And the forward larger window has this bubble. And that allows the machine gun, instead of pointing out, to be pointed forward to give better forward protection for the aircraft. That then morphed into the G style, which I'll call it, the B-17 G style window, with the forward kind of little angled window that stuck out versus being bulged, and then both machine guns pointed forward. And if you compare that to the early Boeing F, you'll see we're back to small, large, small on the left side, and on the right side we're at large, small, small. So it's more of the standard Boeing nose with the late G model additions, whereas this side is the Douglas version where those windows were mirrored. Now, there's another variant of the nose that existed that was not included in this kit, and that's the standard G nose. And the standard G nose, which I don't have the instructions with me on hand, but the standard G nose, from what you'll see with like the old monogram kit, for example, is similar to this Douglas built one, where the left side has the blown window at the front and the right side has the blown window in the middle, opposite of this one. So that actually, right there, you actually have 4 different variations in just the side windows of the nose. And that doesn't count any field mods. That's just from the factory. I don't know how much of that you saw because I was zoomed in, apologies. But you had 4 variations. You've got the standard Boeing built F model. Then you have the standard Boeing built F model with the late style bulged windows. Then you have the Douglas style nose with the flat window and the bulged teardrop window. And those are the ones you can build. The one version you can't is the Douglas layout with the later style G bulges, which is just a standard G nose. Let's not get wrong. That is a G nose. You could buy an HKG and you could use that nose to create a late model F that had that format. So don't get me wrong, it is possible to build. HK gives you the ability if you manage to get the B-17G nose sprue. But as we sit here, I mean, I guess effectively this allows you to build pretty much every version of the F that was out there. And included in that, you also get the different nose styles, the nose perspex, I should say. It gives you, there's 2 different sized openings. Some were from factories in the US, some were field modded in England. That gives you that option. There are a few other variants of nose guns that are not included. This is both single machine guns. There was a variant of B-17 nose that was modded in England that had a twin machine gun. sticking, instead of being off to the side, similar to Memphis Belle, it came out the nose like this, but had 2 machine guns. That variant is also not included in this kit. As well, you get this upper piece as a separate piece that has a single window with the Astrodome, which is a lot more similar to how the G's had it laid on. So all things considered, you get a ton of different variations in here, and by mixing and matching these pieces, you can make pretty much any variant of F model that was out there, minus a few that had, as I said, some different gun fits in the nose perspex. Now, the main reason why I bought this kit, and really the only reason I bought it, because I have enough models of B-17s, I wanted to do an RCAF Mailbird, and I specifically wanted to do 9304, which was a war-weary U.S. Air Force B-17F that was second into training, and then was sold to the RCAF to be used as mailbirds to fly mail across the Atlantic for Canadian troops. And it had this style nose with the bulged windows, and I couldn't use a G because the G had the windows in a different spot. And then that's why I said, when I saw this kit coming out and I realized that it had the nose I needed to build that mailbird, finally, after decades of wanting to build one and never having the interest of hacking apart a kit, I jumped at the opportunity. Everything else was just a bonus. That is what I needed. That being said, I'll probably end up building this kit using the kit decals, and then I will use this nose on my other HK kit to build. Although I guess I can't do that because I need to do knockout dropper. And I needed to do knockout dropper with the other one. Unless I put this on a P-17G. Maybe I hack the nose on a monogram and attach this to a monogram. Anyways, now I'm going down the rabbit hole I don't need to go down. Anyway, so that's the main reason I bought this kit. That is worth every penny. Moving on, you get some resin. I don't even know what those are. Huh. These are Eduard resin. I thought these were actually 3D printed resin, but they're actually cast. Anyways, these are the turbochargers for the B-17. So you've got your forward ones, your inboards, I should say, where the wheel well interrupts. That comes down the side, and then that comes out. Let's see, like that. Then this comes out the back. Actually, it's this one here because it's curved. So yeah, it kind of sits like that and wraps around the wheel well, and then this is your outboard that doesn't get interrupted. And then I don't even know what that is. I'll have to do some research of constructions. I completely missed that. But you get these the resin turbochargers, which do look quite a bit nicer than the plastic, although no one's going to see it when you're done building it. But hey, you get it in the kit anyway. So that is a nice addition. That's probably another $20 if you were going to order these separately. I'd have to look at them, but at least $15 to $20 right there. That alone, I mean, I don't even know what this is worth to you, but if you were going to buy this as a separate part, you'd probably spend about $20 to get this as a separate part if you wanted to get it, if they chose to sell it as a separate part. On top of which, you get your masking. That's at least another $10. And you get a set of photo etch that includes some instrument panels, some seat belts, and some random little bits. You've got some nose armor. That's included on one of your nose sections. This nose section here has the armor plate included in the molding. And if you end up building a version that requires you to use the original HK one, there's a piece of photo etch armor you can put on to make up the difference. You also get the engine wiring harnesses and machine gun, your ring and bead sights, and I don't know what those are. Wheel covers, maybe? I don't know. Probably wheel covers. But yeah, so you get all that extra photo etch as well. We're already up to what? Probably an extra $60 worth of extra stuff that doesn't come with a standard kit. And the poster, which I didn't get, but I will be getting, which is different from the one you got if you ordered from Eduard. But And you get a cool pin. As this was officially sanctioned by the 100th Bomb Group Association, you get the bloody 100th Bomb Group squadron kind of pin. Don't really never know what I'll do with that, but it's kind of cool, and I will keep it. So that's basically what you get in the box. Like I said, we'll look at the instructions, and I will do the decals last. So the instructions, beautifully printed, high gloss, exactly what you'd expect from Eduard on a modern instruction sheet. So here you can see what comes in the kit, and you get all, like I said, all the original HK parts, plus the later sprue that was added, well as I said, the brassin pieces and your masks and your photo etch. Now, interestingly, this show, I mean, obviously there's some parts you don't use from the HK parts because there's replacement parts, but it shows you not to use a whole bunch of the pieces that are included in the new sprue. There's a reason for that, and as I think I've mentioned before, that's because the pre-orders included some extra decals, and I'll get to that when I get to the second book. So this is what you get as the standard kit. The early pre-order got you, there's a limited number of orders that had extra decals, and that's what the other instructions are for, and that includes some of the parts, which we'll get to. I'm not going to go too much into depth with these instructions. As I said, I did do the HK kit already. That link was up there before. I'll put it in the description as well. And I do plan to do a full in-depth review of this kit on its own before at some point. I don't know when. But yeah, so that's that. For the most part, this is all the same as the Eduard kit. Sorry, as the HK kit. There's just some additional things added, such as the seat belts for the Eduard pieces and everything else. And then down here, the throttles, it shows you how to, cut some plastic and use the photo etch to make full throttles and mixture and all that kind of stuff, and RPM. And then interestingly, it gives you an interior color, which was basically mixing 90% interior green to 10% flat black, which is trying to replicate the bronze green that was used on the inside of B-17s. So that's it shows it as being interior. Here you see it says interior. It doesn't give you a color call out. It's that. So because the cockpit area was darker green, and then there's other areas that were actually painted in olive drab. Now, I've mentioned before with B-17s, do your research for the version you're building. Some of them had fully painted interiors. Others had mix and match. Some places painted some aluminum. Some were just straight all left and bare aluminum. So do your research. Make sure you're doing the right thing. So anyways, we start off with the cockpit, bomb bay, put all that together. There's extra decals that were included for some of the internal bits. Pay attention to that. Same thing over here. You're assembling the bomb bay in the radio area. Again, your call outs for all of your photo belts and all that. Down here, we're assembling the rear bulkhead with the ball turret frame. And then in the instrument panel, again, you've got all of your PE going on, front and back half, the part that faces the nose and the part that faces the pilots. There's a ton of extra work going on in there. And then we move into the waist, and you're assembling your guns. You choose whether you want the guns in and out. Also, be careful, because now is when we start to see the differences. Oh, you know what? I'm going through the bonus one first. Screwed that up, didn't I? Okay, this is the main instruction sheet you get when you buy the base kit. That other one was the bonus one that I'll get to soon. I haven't shown off anything too much, but the bonus sheet includes the instructions for the bonus decals you get when you pre-order. This is the one you get if you manage to pick this up at a hobby shop or as a standard order. Now, it actually starts off with a little bit of a history on the 100th Bomb Group, which is really cool. Then we get into the building of the kit. Now you'll see it's showing you to use all of the parts, and that's why. So far, build-up hasn't changed. Here is when you start to see the difference in where you've got to be careful, because it's telling you to use different versions of Windows. For example, all of these get assembled this way, but only markings D, E, F, G, H, I, and J use the window. Versions A, B, and C did not have the window installed. And then option K has the late style G model windows installed. So you have to make sure you're building the right version. Also, that's where that little resin piece went. It's the mount for the machine gun that goes in the window. But yeah, so now you got to start paying attention to what you want to do. What version are you making? What parts are you going to use? Also notice you have to cut a section out to allow, that G model window to fit. Also, you've got your photo etch for your ring and bead gun sight on the machine guns. We then move on to here where the fuselage, the interior gets glued into the fuselage. Also of note, I mentioned this in my other review, while they give you the forward door as a separate piece, there's absolutely no detail in that little walkway underneath the nose. So if you do choose to build it with that door open, you'll see basically nothing in there. There should be a little platform and a whole bunch of oxygen bottles up in there that aren't included in this kit. So you have to take that with a grain of salt and decide what you want to do as you go. Anyways, down here, your tail wheels going in, as well as the rear floor and the little APU. Again, do your research. Some of these were painted, left bare metal. Some had plywood floors. Some had, the floors would have either been plywood or they would have had like a black non-slip surface installed. So again, look at some pictures, do your research, figure out which one fits best with what you want to do. Over here now we're doing the other half of the fuselage with the machine gun. Again, check your markings, make sure you're following the instructions appropriate for the kit you're building. The rear door is also posable, open or closed. You can make that decision. Now we're gluing the fuselage together, and then you're putting the tail gun position together and sliding it into place. You've also got some seat belts. Over here, you're assembling the frame, the fuselage, the stinger tail around the nose. As well, you've got the little aimer that the tail gunner had, the little ring and bead aimer, all through PE, as well as some plastic rod you got to do. Then we work into that upper fuselage, and you're installing all of it here. And as well, you got your machine gun with your ring and bead sight. And you can choose whether that's going to be out or in. Just be aware that if the gun is mounted in the outward position, that window would have been removed and stored inside the fuselage. So it's good to place that somewhere in there while you are assembling it, so you don't forget about that. Now we get to the really confusing part, because this is where all the different nose variations come into play. You've got sections A, B, and C are up here. And then you've got D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K down here. Now you've got the nose section going together with all of the ammo boxes and tables and stuff, and the seat belts go in, and all that fun stuff, including your bomb aimers area. And then you move over here where you're putting the nose sections together. And again, it tells you for the different markings which sides you've got to use. So just be sure again that you are using the right section. Again, it tells you use G and H for markings A, B, and C, and I and J for all the others. And then over here again with A, B, and C, and then the others, there's different nose pieces that go in. As we move down to here, now you'll see that it changes. Again, this style nose gets used for markings I and K, and then all of the others use this style of guns. And you'll come over here and you see all the pieces getting glued on the bottom. And then this PE insert is only for those markings. So again, you've got to really decide before you start building this which version you are going to make. Over here, it all gets assembled. Again, there's some decals you've got to place on the front face of that nose, or the back bulkhead of the nose, or the front half of the instrument panel, however you want to look at that. Anyways, don't forget these decals. Then we get into the construction of the ball turret. All of this is standard across the aircraft. There's no differences, and it's exactly the same as the standard HK kit. Same into here. Everything gets glued in. There's some extra PE antennas that you get to glue in here as you're doing that. Bomb bays can be built open or closed, by the way. Here you've got all your wheel wells going together and the wings going together. Same over here. Now is when you have to put that brass in resin piece in if you want. You can still use the kit version if you want to do that and save these for a later version. Completely up to you. If you do end up using the brass version, there's a little bit of modification you've got to do to the opening just behind the wheel well, probably just correcting that shape slightly. Moving down into here, the engines go together and you've got your wiring harness that goes in and it shows you how to put all that together. And then your landing gear, again, remember if you want to modify that or not, it's up to you. And then you've also, as I said, there's that PE wheel well cover for markings G, H, J, and K. All that goes together. Now you're just repeating it for the other side. And then you're assembling the wings and some final machine gun barrels onto that. And then over here, there's also an antenna that needs to go in the forward nose section for a number of versions, B, D, E, G, H, I, J, K. So pay attention to those variants. Now we get into masking, and this is really cool. I've never seen Eduard do this before with their masking. They've color-coded everything. So when you pull a piece, you can see what color it is, and you know where it goes as you're working your way around, which is really cool. But yeah, so you see all the different nose sections, and it shows you how to do them all, put them all together. Main wheels, tail wheel, and then down here, these are some of the nose, all your side windows that work your way through the fuselage, your upper radio operator and tail gun position. Just be aware also the light purple color is liquid mask. You can either use liquid mask or just little bits of masking tape, whatever you prefer. Now we get into the different nose sections, and you actually see that they provide outside masks and inside masks. So that's where you can mask off the inside, paint the interior green, pull those off, or do all your detailing work, flat coat it, then you can pull off the inner maskings, assemble it all, and then use your outer maskings when you actually do your painting, which it's nice, but it's a lot of work. So you could always hand paint the interior, especially if you're weathering. It wouldn't be very noticeable, and you really wouldn't have to worry about masking. But again, to each their own, so you figure out what works best for you. And same here, your ball turret is really cool. I love these color coded. It makes using the wrong one a lot less likely. And you've got all your windows. I don't know what all of these are. UV, I think these are landing lights in the wings maybe. Small little windows. I'd have to really look at the instructions again, go back to the beginning and see. And then we get into your masking, your markings, I should say. And as I mentioned, there's up to K. The one thing you do have to keep an eye out, by the way, are these engines. If it's a Wright-built engine or a Studebaker-built engine, and it changes the placards that go on the engine face. And some of the aircraft had Studebakers, some had Wrights, and some had a mix. Tons of research went into this. It's really cool. But you've got your full markings and lots of detail here to make sure you put your decals in the right place. It even lets you know to use lighter shades for the fabric covered surfaces, and it will show you, which I'll get to in a minute, when you need to do some darker colors. So the first one we have is Piccadilly Lily from August of 1943. And then you've got Piccadilly Lily from September of 43. So it adds all of the bomb missions and the Germans that were shot down. And also you can see that the markings went from the larger single star to the later red outline. And that required that the older markings get overpainted. So that's where you can paint a darker shade of green over that, where the old markings would be, and then shift everything over. Just a little extra step of realism that makes it really, really cool. And it also tells you, for example, what color the spinners are, whether they had the de-icing boots installed or not. You can see this one had a section of the horizontal stabilizer taken off. So it gives you the ability to plan for that. Option C is Alice from Dallas from August of 43. Option D is Sunny 2 from September of 1943. You'll see this one does not have the de-icing boots. So you have to, on the wings, you have to paint that like a bare metal or an aluminum color. Option E is Sunny 2 from December of 43, which is a couple of months later. And again, you'll see more bomb missions get added. The markings change. It goes from the red outline to the blue outline, and the aircraft identifier changes. It goes from EPK to EPJ. So you have to paint over where the K would be and put the J decal. And over here you can see there's some white on the tail where there might have been some damage repairs, a darker splotch over here where there was some fabric repair. So it's showing you kind of where to do some darker splotches to match the aircraft as it was. Option F is Rosie's Riveters from October of 1943. Again, no de-icing boots on that. All of them would be bare metal. Again, it's a nice touch that they have that kind of research done. Option G is Skipper from July of 1943. And again, you'll see there's some darker panels around where you need to paint. This one also has a really cool spiral along the ADF loop, and it has the wheel cover on it. Next up, we have Skipper. This was from July of 43. This is late 43. So again, you'll see the number of it goes from no bomb missions to bomb missions. And as well, the single star gets changed to the dark blue outline. So all of your markings need to be shifted, and you need to paint the splotches for the overpaint of the roundel, which is a neat touch because it also goes over the gray, which is, again, it's a really neat touch. Option I is Horny 2 from early 1944. Nothing too special on this one. Again, you get some splotches going on around here. Probably some bullet hole touch-ups where some green paint was painted over the gray. Option J is Hard Luck. This is a really interesting one. April of 1944. It was one of the last F models to fly in the unit. One of the last F models to fly. And this was April of 1944, and it has quite a bit going on. You've got a lot of personalized markings on the nose. You've got name, the window across the top of the door, here at the waist gunner, mission markings down each side. 36 missions flown at this point. You've also got red and white stripes on some of the antennas and pitot tubes, as well as on the ADF loop. So that's pretty cool. And then option K is the same aircraft, Hard Luck, but this is now from July of 1944, and it is up to 50 missions. And so I believe some more on top of the extra missions. You now have some German kill markings added. I think that's about. You can see here. There's all of these little patches everywhere, which they actually include the decals for all of those little patches where the battle damage has been repaired. And you'll see there's also some areas here, for example, has a darker shade of green. And up here has a darker shade of, well, that's part of the bomb mission markings. But yeah, you can see there's some variations in color that you need to be aware of to make sure you cover everything. So, and this was, it was shot down on its 62nd mission, August 14th of 1944. It was shot down, and all the men were able to bail out of it. And it was the last B-17 to fly with the 100th Bomb Group in August of 1944. Of note, because it was such a late war use, it had gone through a overhaul process, and that's when it had the late G model covers on the waist, as well as the late G model tall turret. So effectively, the only thing different between this and a G model is the chin turret, and even then it had, the stinger tail. So other than having a chin turret, this had been modded to look almost exactly like a G model. So this is where I'm saying there's so much variation in F models. It was ridiculous. The final page is just some of your stencils, mostly your wing walks and a few other things, the fuel caps and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got some decals for the bombs, tail turret, as I said, your different markings for your Studebaker or your Wright engines. And here you've got, if there's armored glass, I'd have to look at what those decals look like, but there's decals for the glass if you do the armored glass mod for some of the markings. And then there's also the cushions for the pilot seats. So that is the standard kit that you get when you buy this. If you buy the pre-order and you get the extra decals, you get the bonus instruction sheets, which is what I had started going through in the first place. Now, the actual instructions don't change other than the markings. So that went from A to K. This one goes from L to O. So it gives you an additional L, M, N, O for 4 markings. So this tells you which markings to do with which version. Other than that, it is exactly the same. The nose section's a little different because there's less options. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. Here you can see the nose section looks a little different. You either use the version with the teardrop left side nose, or, and that's for option N, for options L, M, and O, you use the original kit standard nose, and then you modify it with the PE and the Astrodome. So that's where I was thinking of doing this. I still have to reassess that now because I realize I've always wanted to do knockout dropper, and I can't if I use the other one. So I might have to use this one for knockout dropper, or this one, I don't know. Got to reassess that. But anyways, you've got the different noses for your different versions. So again, pick what you're going to build and make sure you follow the instructions for your version. Again, this is all the same. This is all the same. This is all the same. Markings are, the masking is all the same. And here we are, we get to our marking. So this is option L, which is Mugwump. And this was from August of 1943. And you can see it's got no de-icing boots. And it looks like the nose art got repainted at one point because there's a darker spot there. Yeah. Next up is 9 Little Yanks and a Jerk. This was the one I was planning to build, but again, I guess I have to reassess my plans. Anyways, again, you can see there's some variation. You've got de-icing boots on the horizontal stab, but not the vertical or the wings. Some darker shades on the tail for some damage repair by the looks of it. As well, you've got the markings overpainted, so there's some darker green to repaint all of that. Option N is, which one is this? Miss M'Lovin from early 1944. Yeah, pretty standard B-17F. Nothing too special on that one. It looks like there was a difference in the propellers, though. What was different in the propellers? S4. Oh, the stencils were different. Engines 1 and 3 and 3 and 4, the stencils were in different orientations. Like, that's just the minorest change, but you can tell they've really done their research on this. And finally, option O is Squawk and Hawk. So Squawk and Hawk, it was the first B-17 in the 100th Bomb Group to fly 50 missions. And as such, apparently, it was then signed by all of the members of the unit, and then it was brought back to the U.S. For a war bond tour. And then the other thing of note on this one is the outer props were all black. The inner props have silver with just a black hub on the tip. Otherwise, again, it's got the late G windows, but the early F turret. And again, you've got a slightly different set of markings between the engines and power. Oh, that's why that one. Wait, one doesn't make any sense. Engine number 4. Engine number 4 is the outboard. It should be black. Yeah, that's a weird one. It shows engines 1, 2, and 3 like this, engine 4 like that, but engine 4 should be this far right outboard one, and it should only have a black prop as per the instructions, but it's showing a silver prop. But I'm wondering if they're reading it the same as a Lancaster, where they do 1, 2. No, because 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how they're numbering their engines. Anyways, so those are the options. Again, your final sheet is just showing you all of your stencils. Again, it's the exact same as the other instruction booklet, but that's a lot. I don't even know how long I've been talking for, but that's a lot to go through. I literally spent about an hour last night reading through these instructions, just absorbing all of the different variations you can do out of just this one kit. And like I said, it's a lot. Now, la piece de la résistance. Anyways, the decals. Now, this might look impressive, right? You're just looking at this being like, wow, that's a big decal sheet. I mean, I don't even know how I'm going to store this decal sheet. It's so big. I'm probably going to have to store this in... Oh no, my tacky strip just came off. I'm probably going to have to store this like in the model box because it won't fit in my binder of decals, and I don't want this to get ruined. But you're looking at it as being like, wow, that's a big decal sheet. Then you realize this little guy, this is the bonus sheet that you get from an early order. This isn't even a standard sheet. This is just a bonus sheet. This is your standard marking sheet you get with this kit. Standard stencils and all A, B, C, D, E, F. Well, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. That was J, K. There's a couple in here. But my point is, this A, B, C, D, E, F, J, H, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and there's a K in there somewhere. But anyways, this is the standard sheet you get. And then you can also see here, this is where all those battle damage decals were. And a couple of others here, it looks like, have some battle damage repairs. And then you still have all of your standard, all of your roundels. This is a really weird one. But yeah, your markings, your Ds, which again have all these variations in them. They're all slightly different shaped. There's your armored glass decals, the little outlines. I don't even know what those are for. Bombs, probably. You've got your instrument panels if you choose to go that route. I just realized I never looked to see which version of the models had that one-off decal, because they put out a request that it was that they'd be outlined in red, and it looks like this one's outlined in blue and this one's outlined in red. It looks like somebody misunderstood the rules, and instead of outlining the whole thing in red, they just outlined the star in red. They misunderstood the order. And I'm curious to see which one had that, because that was decal 9. Yeah, see there, Alice of Dallas, Alice from Dallas. You can mix and match. You can either do it with the blue outline or the red outline, because it looks like at some point they misunderstood the order. I'm just reading through it now. The white stars and the enlarged Type 2 emblem on the fuselage of this aircraft had a darker blue border of propeller hubs. It doesn't talk about the red outline in the instructions, but it looks like that's what that is. It was a misunderstood order. And instead of painting around the outline of it, they just painted the outline of the star. But yeah, there is a ton of detail and a ton of decals, and they're all beautifully, beautifully printed. Lots of research went into this. The fact that you've got the bullet hole decals for the battle damage repairs. You've got all these variations in the square D for all the different versions that had them painted crooked, or the white square wasn't quite square. It's You're home? I'll be right up. Were you calling me? Oh, my phone's on silent. I'll be right up. Yeah, the amount of research and detail that went into this thing is just obscene. I'm glad I got it, but anyways, I want to wrap it up there. Let's jump over and take a look at the progress on the kits, and stay tuned. I will have a full in-depth review of that kit coming out in a little bit. I mean, that's pretty much into it, but to be slightly more in depth. So here we are at the desk to take a look at where we are for this month in terms of models. And to be perfectly honest, as I've excuse me, as I've mentioned a few times in the past, I was going to put a lot of my focus on that Hurricane to ensure I had it done in time to present it to the pilot at the Aero Gatineau Air Show, which at the time of filming this is only a week and a half away. And I did exactly that. I put all my effort into that Hurricane and I got it done. So here is the finished model. It turned out really, really well, to be perfectly honest. I'm very, very happy with it. There are some limitations in terms of accuracy that I just have to live with, and I'm sure the pilot's, while he'll probably notice them, I don't think he's going to care too much. He had already kind of told me to not to worry too much about the finer details, that he just wanted something that looked close enough to have in his house or on a shelf or however he wants to display this. So there's a few things I did to make this look similar to the Mark 12 that he flies versus the Mark 1 that comes out of the kit. So I've added these strakes here on either side of the nose. Those were to ensure that any of the flames that came out of the exhaust were blocked by the pilot's vision. It was just a little addition to help with night flying that was added. So I did that. That's just some sheet styrene that I cut to shape, glued in place. I added the extra machine guns out here on the wings. The Mark 12 had 12 machine guns. The kit only comes with the 8. So I just used, I did not put any of the machine guns in the wings. So I just used the barrels from the kit machine guns, drilled the holes and mounted them outboard of the landing lights where they normally would belong. That, other than the decals and aftermarket decals I used, is all I really did to make it look a little bit more like the real aircraft. The other thing I did was I used an aftermarket instrument panel in there. You can go back and take a look at previous builds, and for that matter, you can. The part 1 time lapse is live. I'll put the link up above for that. You guys can go watch that if you want to see the first half of this. Part 2 will be a little while still, excuse me, until I get it out. But part 1, you can watch me build everything and see some of that detail in the cockpit I put. So other than that, those are small changes I made. Everything else, kit-wise, plastic-wise, is strictly out of the box, which, as I mentioned, does mean there are some limitations in terms of accuracy for the Mark 12. The big one is the spinner. And while it might not be obvious to most people looking at it, the Mark 12, well, propeller and spinner, I should say. So the Mark 1 that this kit represents had the Rodal wooden propeller and the spinner. The Canadian-built Mark 12s, including the actual aircraft that I modeled this after, is the Canadian-built. It flies with a Hamilton standard propeller that had a bigger sort of propeller hub, and that necessitated a slightly different shaped spinner. And obviously this doesn't depict that, so it's just one of those minor things I'm going to have to live with, and so will he. The other issue is the kit is designed to be built with the step in the down position, and when you build it in the down position, this flap should be open. Minor detail that I really kind of wish I had the effort, but you'd have to cut out that opening, drill down the inside, because it's only the thickness of a piece of plywood around that opening. I'd have to sand that down, grind it down to scale, and then put it all together. And it was just a lot of work for just a minor detail. So I just left it the way it is. Again, I don't think the owner will be too worried about minor details like that. Otherwise, the only other real thing between this and the real kit that stands out is the decals. Now, these were done by Above and Below Decals, which full credit to them. These decals are amazing. As you can clearly see, they go down really nicely. Carrier film all but disappears. However, my only complaint, if I had to have a complaint, was the decals were produced by, prior to Above and Below Decals acquiring these decals, they were done by Ken Miller, Bill Burns, and they were done by Pictures. So the font and size of the letters, the skull, and the boot-kicking Hitler in the behind were all modeled by Bill Burns at Ken Miller via Pictures, and he did an amazing job at it, but they're just slightly different than what's on the actual aircraft. The skull has a slightly different shape, or the skeleton has a slightly different shape. The letters and the font is just slightly different. The A's a little bit wider, the letters are just a little bit taller, and this nose art is just a little bit smaller on the real thing. Again, minor differences. You know, if that's sitting on the shelf and somebody who had seen this airplane fly at an air show walked in and saw this, they would be like, oh my God, it's that plane. The minor details are going to be missed by the vast majority of people who see this, so I'm just going to have to live with them, and as I said, I'm sure the owner will be very, very happy with it. So that being said, my goal this weekend when I go back to work is to find a box big enough to hold this. Shouldn't be a problem. We have tons of shipping boxes at work, but I just need to find a box that fits the dimensions, and I want, specifically in the vertical, I want to have quite a bit of cushion. And then I'm going to use some foam core. This kind of stuff here, you buy at Michael's. This is a wing jig I made for my F-82. I'm just going to use some foam core, and I'm going to construct a frame for this to fit inside the box. I'm literally just going to hot glue the foam core to the inside of the box, and I'm going to build, you know, something to hold the wingtips, something to hold the front and back of the wings. And then, yeah, you'll be able to just put this into the box and it will have a place to sit. And it's going to come up high enough on either side that the plane will have a little bit of vertical travel, but it won't kind of fall over. It'll have to be locked into position. Everything's going to sit pretty high up in the box. I might even take it almost to the top of the box. That way when the top closes, it's got something to rest on. But yeah, there's going to be, you know, a wall on each wingtip to hold the wingtip side to side. I'll probably put one on the tail. I'll put one in front of the wing, one behind the wing, and then maybe even just one horizontal stabilizer. I'll put side pieces on both sides to ensure that they don't shift side to side. I might put one in front and behind on one tail, and I'll probably put one on the front and on the tail of the back. We'll see, just to ensure that this doesn't shift. I might even put something to lift it off so it doesn't sit on the wheels. It'll sit on a piece of foam core and lock itself in and not put any pressure on the landing gear. But I'll build it all up. I have some foam core in the closet. I should have enough to do what I need to do. If not, it's not that expensive at Michael's. But that way this will fit inside a box. It'll be locked into position. It won't be able to move anywhere. And the owner is able to then take it home with him, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. That's my plan. We'll see how well it works. But yeah, so it's coming along. It's really good. I'm so happy with this. It's going to feel kind of sad to give this up. It looks really, really good. Very happy with how it all turned out. But yeah, so that is the Trumpeter 124th Hurricane Mark 1 that I completed as the Vintage Wings of Canada Mark 12. So I'll try to get some pictures and stuff of this as I present it to him at the air show with the real plane, that kind of stuff. We'll see what I can get, but we'll try my best. I'll post some pictures here. Obviously it won't be this one. It'll be probably next month's what's on my desk. I might even post them on Facebook. We'll see. But yeah, we'll be presenting that to the owner within 2 weeks. I'll be handing this off to its new owner. A bit of a bittersweet moment, but it looks really good, and I'm sure he'll be happy with it. Moving right along, we'll look at the Kate, because it's kind of the farthest along of the next four, and I have it gloss coated. So it's pretty much ready to go for decals. The only thing I still have to do, which I might have mentioned in the last month's update, I forgot to paint the top of the flaps when I did the last round of... oh yeah, that goes on that side. When I painted the fuselage, I forgot to paint the top of the flaps. So I'm going to have to go back at some point and paint them. I'm not terribly worried about that. There's no real decals as far as I know that go on the flaps. So it's gonna be really easy just to go back to the paint booth later, paint them green, and then I'll glue them on after I get all the decals and flat coat done. So not a big deal, but that's kind of something I still have to take care of. And then I'm working on the engine right now. I don't have it with me. The engine's on the paint booth, getting painted steel, but I have the front ring That goes on the front of the engine face. Propellers are already painted up. They're ready for decals. So basically my next step for this is just, other than painting that engine and assembling and weathering the engine, is going to be decals. And then I can seal the decals. I'll have to do the aluminum on the insides of the wing fold areas. Yeah, and then weathering, and again, simple weathering, but then I'll have to do a little bit of weathering and then flat coat it, and then all the little details have to start going on. So we're getting close. That one is coming along. Again, oh, I did. Looking really good. I'm really happy with that. The black and the green are a little close in color, so it's a little hard to see that black. I'm hoping once I get some weathering and some flat coat, that will pop a bit more. And as I mentioned, I'm not doing a lot of weathering because the color scheme on this was painted on relatively late in its life, I guess I should say. It was painted right before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Prior to that, it was all aluminum. So this green was painted on in the days leading up to the attack, so it would not have a lot of weathering. When this aircraft later in its life after the attack, a lot of this green was peeling and whatnot coming off the aluminum because there was no primer. It was just painted directly onto the aluminum. So a lot of this paint was chipping and peeling and had a lot of heavily weathered look. But for the actual attack on Pearl Harbor, from all of my research, this was a freshly painted green and would not have a lot of weathering. So I am, as well, early war aircraft didn't have as much problems. As the war progressed and they started pushing these out of the factory quicker and quicker, as well as the quality of the material went down as the war went on, you started to see a lot more chipping in late war aircraft versus early war. Same thing happened in Germany. As well, the aircraft just stayed in service longer and started to get chipped and worn. But anyways, that's going to be the scheme. I'm going to keep it in this clean green. I am going to weather it in terms of black wash. I'll add a bunch of exhaust staining down the bottom, and the bomb will be installed in the landing gear and all that fun stuff. So I'm getting there. But yeah, so this is going to be not much else I can do on this right now, actually. Just kind of waiting until I get the other aircraft to the point that I can weather. Now, speaking of that, or decal, I should say, the B-17 is very, very close. So this is what it looks like now. I can't remember what this looked like the last time around. A lot of what's been going on with the B-17 has been kind of details on the side. So like I said, the weathering was done. The painting is done. The varied paint scheme looks really, really good. I've got the masking pulled off for all of the letters and the bomb aim, the waist gunners, I should say. I've touched up some of the paint here and there that needed it. I also got the de-icing boots masked off and painted. And I just, literally this morning, painted the mission markings. So the YB-40s carried little machine gun markings on the nose to denote a flown mission, and the resources I have for this particular aircraft show 3. So I made up a custom mask. I haven't pulled the mask off on that yet. I'm just letting it dry a bit more. But once that is done, then that aircraft as it sits is ready to be gloss coated, and then I can start weathering that, or decaling that, and then weather flat coat, and then I can pull off the remainder of the masks. Other than that, there hasn't been a lot of stuff going on the side. I've got tail wheel broke out, so I got to deal with that. The top turret pieces, both the forward and rear turrets, are ready to go. I just have to kind of assemble everything and glue that on, which I will not do until after I have the flat coat and weathering and all the masking pulled. Same with the ball turret. So there's the other two top turrets. The other top turret, which I have a couple of detail painting to do on that, some weathering, paint the, but that can be dropped in. I've designed it to glue in after the fact, so I have till the very end to get that done. The ball turret, same way. I just need to paint the barrels, do a bit of weathering, and then I can pull the masking and pop it in. But again, I'm not going to install that until I'm pretty much ready to glue it to its base, because I don't want that to get broken. So all of those, some more top turret pieces. I didn't use the ammo boxes because you're not going to see them, so I'm not terribly worried about that. There's the upper turret perspex already painted, so again, it just needs a bit of a flat coat, and then I can pull the masking on that. Cowlings are done. Again, they probably just need some weathering. I'm not going to do a lot of weathering on these, actually, so probably just flat coat. And like I said, the engines are in paint right now, so they're going to go on after, and then I'll weather behind the cowling so that you can't even see what I'm pointing at. So yeah, like I said, the cowlings are painted and ready to go. They are actually specific because I lined up the camo demarcation on the wing to the cowling. So each one actually lines up specifically to the side it's supposed to go on. So I really won't know which one goes where until I get the engines installed. But I'm going to weather from behind the cowling, the way you'd get oil and whatnot coming out from behind, and then glue the cowlings on after. So you're going to get really cool weathering look. But I got to be careful with the B-17 because there's some weird stuff that goes on back here in terms of the way the airflow that came out of these kept part of the wing clean behind it, and the weathering tended to just go down between. So anyways, we'll figure that out. But I'm going to do some weathering from the engines. I might not go back that far, but dirty up back here, exhaust staining on the bottom, black wash, and then I'll glue all the engines on after that. Probably glue those on. I don't know. We'll see. I might not even flat coat these. Just give them a different color. I might just glue these on after. Flat coat all of this, pull all the maskings, and then just go plop, 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 and then put the props on after. But anyways, props are coming along too. They need, I got to paint the hubs aluminum, and then I got to gloss coat these because these are going to get decals as well on the props. And then the wheels are painted. I still got to do some work on these. The hubs need to be painted steel by hand. I'm just going to do that by hand. And then I got to figure out what I'm doing with I might paint them. I got to look at the pictures because some of these had a design in the middle, but it looked like, I don't know how the design actually works. It looks like it's like an hourglass shape, like it's been quartered. So I might have to just mask off and do something like that. Just, we'll see. Because you're only going to see, weird. Anyways, you're only ever going to see part of it because it will be, the wheel will be retracted. So you're only ever going to see like the bottom portion of the wheel. You're only ever going to see the bottom portion of the wheel. So I might go in there and just paint like one quarter, not the upper quarter. And when I glue the wheels on, just make sure that they're sticking in a way that you can see the bottom part that sticks out has a little bit of it. I think they're yellow and black, I think. But yeah, because there's a knockout dropper was also from this squadron, and it had yellow and black like yin yang style designs, but this one had a quarter design. But I'll have to do some research and see that. But I'll probably do that by hand. So that is the YB40 progress. Give me a sec. I just gotta go grab the Lincoln. So here is the progress on the Lincoln, and as you can clearly see, it is painted. Camo's painted. I've got this thing is so big. I've got all the black painted on the bottom. In theory, I could pull these wheel well maskings and stuff out now, as well as this, because there's no clear windows in there at all to get damaged by flat coat. So that's probably one of the next steps I'm going to do. As well, I can pull off the masking here for the FM300 because I don't need those anymore. But yeah, so I can start pulling some of that off. And then gloss coat, and then decals. And decals are really, really easy on this. All I'm gonna have to put on are the national insignias and a couple of stencils. This did not have a lot, it didn't have any squadron markings or anything, no artwork, no nothing. So it's just gonna be the simple, and I do have, if I can get it out here without making a mess. Oh, I made a mess. Oh, that's why it's taped to another set of decals. I do have the kit decals for the Lancaster, which obviously I'm not really going to be using because I have others. So I'll probably end up using the wing walks. I'll cut it apart and I'll use the wing walks and the trestle here and some of these stencils and whatnot I'll put in that would be on the real aircraft. And I'm using all of the national insignias here. So I'm going to use this sheet. I'm going to butcher this up, and I'm going to use all of these national insignias as well as all the stencils and just complete it. And that is that. I'm going to clean up my mess now before I start, so I don't lose any decals. Anyway, so yeah, that's coming right along. Yeah, literally, I'm just gonna have to start pull masking off this and get it gloss coated. So I'm really at the point of gloss coating decals for the next 3 kits, which surprises the hell out of me, to be perfectly honest, because I didn't expect to be that far. But here we are. So let's keep moving on. Other than that, I don't have much else to go or to say. You've seen the review of that new Eduard B-17. No idea when I'm going to get to that. Now that the Hurricane's done, I just have to focus on these 3. Hopefully, I'm assuming some point in September I will finish these off. If not, it will be early October, and then I have no idea what I'm doing next. I have a vague idea of one of the ones I want to build, but we'll see when I get there. I'll do either 3 or 4 for the next round. I'm not entirely sure how many I want to build. I might just do 3. I don't have a lot of shelf space, to be honest. So building 3 reduces the amount of models, like shelf space I need to display them, while I still get to build things. So we'll see when I get there. But I have an idea for 1. The rest I'll have to figure out. And then, yeah, September is also a busy month for me. I've got 2 air shows to go to. As I mentioned with the Hurricane, the Aero Gatineau Air Show is literally a week and a half away, and I'll be busy that week because we're going to have the Thunderbirds and the Red Arrows in town along with the Snowbirds. So I'm going to be heading out to the main airport to watch the arrivals. I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday that week. So I'm going to go out to the airport and get the arrivals of the Thunderbirds on the Wednesday, and I'm probably going to sneak out to Gatineau for a bit. We'll see. Maybe Thursday, Friday for sure. I'm in the photo pit Friday for arrivals practice day on the Friday night, and then I'm going on Saturday with the family in the general admission plebeian area. So I'll be over there, and then I'm back to work. I go back to night shifts starting that Sunday night. So then my life gets a little more hectic with sleeping during the days and working all night. So that being said, then the weekend after that, the 14th, 15th, I'm in London for that show, and I'm not sure when. I'm either going down Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then drive down Thursday, drive home Sunday, or drive down Friday, drive home Sunday. Not entirely sure yet. But either way, that's another busy stretch. So I'm not going to have a lot of time to build in September, which is why I was saying these might not get done until October. We'll have to wait and see. But on that other side of that coin, there's going to be a lot of content coming out from those air shows. It's going to be a really interesting air show. Lots of videos, lots of pictures. So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited for those 2 air shows. Looking exciting. In terms of videos, the part 1 of the Hurricane build, as I mentioned, is up. The part 1 of the B-17 should be coming out early in September, and the part 1 for this build is also out, and the Kate part 1 will be coming out later in the month. I still have to edit that video. It shouldn't take long though. It was a simple build, so it should just fall together. So that'll come out in September as well. And then and then I'll have to start editing on top of all the airshow videos, editing the part 2 finishing of all of these. So it's going to be a busy couple of months in terms of content, but that also means I'll have lots of content to get me through the winter when I don't have air shows and stuff to take pictures of and go to video. So I have quite a bit of content to get me through the winter and lots of building in my future. So I'm going to wrap it up on that note. If you have watched to the end, thank you. Please down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. Like I said, I have lots of cool content coming out. And good, bad, or ugly, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and I do my best to answer all the comments I can. So please feel free to do that if you want. And yeah, we'll get back at this. We'll see you next month. Oh, and I'm going to, I keep saying this, I'm going to try to do my first live stream in September. I don't know which day yet. I'll probably plan it for later in the month because I'm so busy. I'll schedule it for one of my days off, and we'll probably do it at night, probably around 8:30 p.m. Eastern to 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll hop on for an hour. I'll sit down here and I'll start working on a kit that will only be built in the live stream. I'm only going to build that kit during a live stream. So come out and check that out, and I'll let you know. Like I said, I'll post it on here as well as Facebook when I start getting some dates figured out for that. So that's all coming up in the future. So again, thank you. We'll see you all next month.